Okay, we need to talk about this player, a certain player who has delivered like for the first 5 games of the season and since we signed him for Manchester United last season. Now, my question to you is what if I told you that Manchester United's most consistent player is not Bruno Fernandes? What if I told you that Manchester United's most consistent player is not the player that you think he is, but the Dutch centre back who has quietly become the heartbeat of Rúben Amorim's new look defense? Yes, I'm talking about Matthijs de Ligt. Matthijs de Ligt today actually is the most consistent player we've seen at Manchester United in the last 2 seasons. And we're diving deep into his performances so far this season, looking at the numbers, the tactics, and even the match examples and the reason why he's becoming an indispensable player at Manchester United, especially with this Manchester United's rebuild. I mean, he's 26 years old, or 25 as the case may be. He's 25. And then, what Matthijs de Ligt joined Manchester United um, when basically, let's take it this way. Let's start from when he arrived. The arrival, the expectation, and all of that. Matthijs de Ligt joined Manchester United, and there were questions basically from Bayern Munich and all that. Could he stay fit? Could he adapt to another league? After stints at the Eredivisie, the Serie A, and the Bundesliga. I mean, he was Ajax captain at age 18, and he won the league there under Erik ten Hag. Surprisingly, won the he went to Juventus at a very young age, and then he won the league at Juventus, and then went to Bayern Munich and won multiple leagues there. And most importantly, the question that people asked was, could he finally become the defensive leader that United had been missing since the peak days of Rio Ferdinand and Nemanja Vidić? I mean, we're talking about a player who Man United were interested in a couple of years ago, and they said, "Oh, we couldn't sign him." I think he was 20 then. Couldn't sign him because obviously we heard rumors that they said he was too big, for his age and stuff. But look at him; he's a massive beast, right? Fast forward to the present day, right? Matthijs de Ligt has featured in every single minute of Manchester United's league campaign so far, and that's 450 minutes across 5 matches. No small feat, actually. When you consider the rotation Amorim has used in other positions, from the start, he has been trusted as the anchor of Amorim's back three, and the stats actually show us why. Barring the Grimsby Town game where he came in as centre back, and he also had multiple attacks and multiple shots in that game. He has played every minute of Premier League game this season, and he is indispensable. Now let's talk about his defensive metrics. Let's do the defensive numbers here. Um, because this is where De Ligt shines the most, right? In just 5 Premier League matches, he's already won 7 of 9 tackles, 7 of 10 tackles on average, and that's a 70% success rate. And he also made 7 interceptions, reading the game and cutting out dangers before it even develops. I think I saw a stat from Statman Dave. Yeah, I saw a stat from Statman Dave about the league's tackles and tackles rates and all of that, and you could tell that the numbers actually speak for themselves. He's very adept in reading the game and cutting out danger before it even develops. Aerially, De Ligt has been dominant. He contested 33 air duels and won 19 of them, giving him under 58% success rate. Basically, that might sound modest, but remember, he's often up against the very best strikers in the league, and his ability to win those battles has been very crucial. We talk about Arsenal. He faced Gyökeres. We went to Fulham game. He faced the Fulham striker. His name skips my mind. Two of them actually, and then we went to Burnley. He faced Burnley striker. They scored us two as well. And then we went to Man City, and then he faced Erling Haaland. And then we went to Chelsea, and he faced Jao Pedro. Right. So, I mean, what do you expect? He's delivered in all of these games. He didn't give what's his name? He didn't give um Victor Gyökeres a sniff in the game against Arsenal. He bodied him, bullied him, and all of that. Now, add to that 18 ball recoveries, plus a steady stream of clearances and blocks. And you've actually got a defender who isn't just present, but very proactive. He's not waiting for the danger to come to him. He's stepping up, meeting it head on, and often winning. I did a match review and preview during the preseason, and obviously I noted at one point that Rúben Amorim was literally screaming at Matthijs de Ligt in a game, and screaming "Mata, Mata," basically to push up and press the defender, and that was the time with the attacker, and that was the time that West Ham scored us. Same thing happened against Everton. So he seems to have learned his lessons and actually taking all Amorim is telling him in. You think about the Chelsea game where he pushed up to João Pedro a lot. He didn't give João Pedro a sniff. He pushed up to the right winger, a right midfielder as well in Enzo Fernandez. And then at some point when he was up top attacking, Harry Maguire was covering for him. So basically he has shown what it means to play for Manchester United. And we'll talk about his passing and composure, which is another aspect of his game. De Ligt is not just a stopper. He's been, key to United's build-up for a long time. Against Chelsea, for example, he completed 42 or 49 passes, and that's about 86% accuracy. And crucially, many of those weren't just safe sideways balls. He was showing confidence, while playing. He has the confidence to play long diagonals, to feed wing backs, and to progress the ball through the lines. And he was playing at right centre back. Basically, he was asked about the player he admires the most, and the player he mentioned was Paul Scholes. So that wouldn't surprise me why he will be giving those long diagonal balls when he gets the chance to. And basically, he always tries to progress the ball through the lines, and this is what Rúben Amorim, this is exactly what Rúben Amorim demands in his 3-4-3 system. In a 3-4-3 system that the central defenders aren't just there to defend, they are the launch pad. They have to be comfortable playing out under pressure, which Harry Maguire has shown this season, and also Matthijs de Ligt has shown this season. And de Ligt has shown the composure time and time and again. If we're going to talk about it, time and time and again, he has shown the composure to pass from the back and to launch the attack from defense. Then, if we're going to talk about Amorim's 3-4-3 system and where de Ligt fits, I've talked about it slightly, but I can go deeply into details. If we break down the tactics, Amorim has been insistent. Basically, Manchester United are playing a 3-4-3, no compromises, right? Despite the media outbursts, despite the media lashes, he keeps telling them, he says, guys, let me tell you, I won't change my philosophy. Not even the Pope can basically make me change the philosophy. So that means that de Ligt is usually the central figure in the back three. Obviously, the first four games, we saw a back three of de Ligt in the center, Leniero on the right, Luke Shaw on the left. Albeit against Chelsea, it was de Ligt on the right centre back, Harry Maguire centre back, and then the central centre back, and then we had Luke Shaw playing on the left as the left centre back. So, and the Euro came in the second half. So de Ligt is capable of playing centre and right, and he has also played left, I think, last season at some point. Then, especially when Euro is in the team and he's playing with Maguire, then de Ligt plays left. Then when in this Amorim system, like I said, he's usually the central figure, though he has played on the right, as I said, when needed. In that position, he acts as both the safety net and the organizer. And sometimes he's even the guy that makes the last-ditch tackles and blocks. We've seen that multiple times this season. He's the kind of guy that you would liken to a young Vidić, who is very not as rash in his tackles, but just there to make that last-ditch block. Even with Rio Ferdinand at some point, making those last-ditch blocks and all of that. He's the organizer, especially when the wing backs push up high, and he's always, especially when, as I said, especially when the wing backs push up high, which is what is demanded from players in Amorim system, especially wing backs. It is de Ligt who marshals the space that they leave behind, and he always blocks it. Especially if sometimes Shaw goes out of position, he's always there to press hard and clear. Now his role demands not just strength but intelligence. He has to also know when to step up and intercept, as I said, in the game against Bournemouth in the preseason, as well as Everton and West Ham, and when to hold the line, and when to actually drop deep to cover. And so far, he has been near flawless. Look at the Chelsea one where they were trying to play a ball across, albeit it was offside. He still had to clear it with his right foot and clear it really high, right? But then it was an offside. One of the biggest compliments you can give him is that his presence allows United to play the way Amorim wants. Without a defender as secure and composed as Matthijs de Ligt, the system would collapse under pressure. With him, it holds together. I mean, we could see the difference even in the Grimsby Town game, albeit we drew that game in the final whistle and then lost on penalties. Now, if we're going to give match examples and the proof in his performance, stats are one thing, but let's talk about specific games where De Ligt actually stood out. You could even see it in the eye test, even the way he runs and all that. I know other reporters and pundits have called him slow. They say he's not big enough. They said the Premier League doesn't suit him and stuff. But you could see that he's a beast. He's built for it. Marshalling defenses and all that. So against Chelsea at Old Trafford in a 2-1 win, he played on the right side of the back three and he registered 4 clearances, 2 tackles, and 4 recoveries. At some point, ESPN described him as producing robust challenges throughout the match. And if you watched it, you will know exactly what they meant. He was aggressive, composed, and simply didn't allow Chelsea forwards to an inch. Then against Burnley in a thrilling 3-2 victory, he was again ever present. United were solid in the first half and, in De Ligt's own words, stable and solid. Even though they conceded twice late on, it actually positioned Man United to win because of his positioning and leadership, and helped them to see the game out. Now, even in defeat with a 3-0 loss away at Man City, De Ligt was one of the busiest players on the pitch. He made multiple tackles, recoveries, and aerial wins as well. But the sheer force of Man City's attack overwhelmed Manchester United as a team, and still the individual performance stood out in what was otherwise a difficult night, and most of the team had a bad day at the office. These examples actually show that there's a consistent pattern. De Ligt is delivering regardless of the result. He's not perfect, nor no defender in this world is, right? But he's been one of the most reliable figures in Amorim's new United rebuild. And we can talk about this over and over and over again, but the truth is De Ligt has delivered time and again, and we can't overestimate how much of a good signing he is in his second season, from Bayern Munich, and was signed for around £38 million, and he's delivering back to back, right? Then it's not just the numbers. If we're going to talk about leadership and mentality, another player we can also talk about who was signed part of that 38 million pound, part of that, I think it was altogether 15 million pounds. That's like 19 million pounds for the player, was is Nusayr Mazraoui. We'll talk about that one another day, maybe tomorrow. I'll do another video deep dive into Nusayr Mazraoui. But it's not just about numbers. Basically, if we're talking about leadership and mentality, Matthijs de Ligt has brought something else to United that Man United desperately need, and that is leadership. At just 26 years old, he already has the experience of captaining Ajax, as I said at the beginning, and playing at the highest levels in Italy and in Germany, Juventus and Bayern Munich respectively. And then the maturity shows on the pitch. He organizes the line, communicates consistently and constantly, and he sets the tone with his aggression in duels. And you could see that Luke Shaw also took it from him when Luke Shaw was going aggressive against Enzo Fernandez in a game that we needed to win. So he's also spoken honestly about the games. Especially after games, you could hear him. I've released most of his press conferences online. He speaks very honestly about games. And after the Burnley game, he emphasized that there was a need for consistency and concentration, not gloating about the win, but also reminding everyone of the bigger picture. And that's the mentality of someone who sees himself as more than just a player. He is a leader. Now, there are challenges. We talk globally about the challenges and all that, and all of those things. But let's just, we could talk globally about the player, but there are also challenges that he faces. Now, it's not just about it. It's not all perfect for him. Despite, De Ligt's strong performances, Manchester United's defensive record is still mixed. Clean sheets have been hard to come by, especially this season in 5 Premier League games, and lapses in concentration, not from De Ligt himself alone, but all across the team. Of course, Man United 3 points in several matches, including the game against Arsenal, the game against Fulham, and the game against Man City as well. This shows that while De Ligt has been the standout performer, defending is a collective effort. As I said in most of my videos, you look at the bigger picture of the whole team. Even the best centre backs in the world can't plug every hole if the structure around him isn't right. But I'm not saying, okay, blaming the structure, but this season has shown us that we actually, where we thought we had more strength, we actually need at least a player or two there. Amorim also knows that this is something United will need to improve on as the season goes on, and he keeps saying we need to do better, we need to do better, we need to do better. So if we're looking at the bigger picture, as per De Ligt's contribution to United's rebuild, when you step back a little bit, but as the Ligt's contribution goes beyond just tackles, interceptions, and the likes, especially with all these glowing stats that we've seen, he represents the cornerstone of Amorim's rebuild with his consistency, and he's yet to hit his peak, because players usually hit their peak from 27 or 26, 27, and he can give, if he plays really well, he can give us another 4, 5, 6 years. You know, he gives United the confidence to play a high defensive line when needed, because he has the pace. Him, Euro, and Shaw have the pace. He also allows the wing backs to push forward, basically with the way Man United play. He also brings calmness in possession and aggression in defense. And maybe most importantly, he is building a partnership with teammates that could define United's defense for years to come. We're talking, Luke Shaw now is playing at left centre back, but we're talking about players like Lenny Euro, Aiden Heaven. Even when we signed Lisandro Martinez, they're both players that could actually play together and stuff. So there are challenges. Yes, the system is still a work in progress, obviously, this season. But if you're looking for positives in United's season so far, De Ligt is one of them, and he has to be right near the top of the list of the positives that we can always talk about or refer to. Now, to wrap this whole video all up and all of that, where does this leave United? Where does this leave us, especially? De Ligt has quietly become Manchester United's most consistent performer under Rúben Amorim. And obviously, Rúben Amorim himself has spoken glowingly about Matthijs de Ligt. His defensive stats are strong, his passing is reliable, and his leadership is evident, and his role in the 3-4-3 is absolutely vital. But United's defensive record hasn't been perfect yet, but with De Ligt at the heart of it, United have a foundation to build on. And if he can stay fit, as he struggled with some injuries last season, especially with muscle injury and thigh injury and all of that, and he can continue his form, we might just be watching a rebirth of United's defensive identity, anchored by a Dutchman who is finally proving why he was once considered the brightest defensive talent in Europe at one point in his life, especially as the 18-year-old Ajax captain. And that's the story for Matthijs de Ligt's Manchester United season so far. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. We could talk on and on. We can go on and on talking about Matthijs de Ligt and everything. But let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section about Matthijs de Ligt. We're going to keep building towards this. We'll talk about Nuzay Mazraoui pretty much in another video where we'll dive deep into situations like him and all of that. So let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Do you think Matthijs de Ligt is the most constant player we have Manchester United this season? If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't have to miss anything as relates to Manchester United. Also, like this video as much as you can so that the algorithm can show us, and then we can build a communication and conversation in this community. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Take care, goodbye, and God bless.